The interesting part is this all kind of came after you thought you were out of the game. And then you had a daughter. So I guess let's start there. Walk us through, maybe if you want to frame up before kind of the games, competing at semifinals and regionals, and then kind of what happened, obviously having a child, and what caused you to say, hey, I think I still got something in the tank. Let's give it another run.
Yeah, well, it was a huge eye-opening moment and a very pivotal moment for me. I went from a full-time, well, I just graduated from college. So in my head, my next step was going into the business world, being a business professional. I'm still competing, so I'm still an athlete. And I went in 2018 to regionals and found out I was unexpectedly pregnant there because everything just fell off. So everything that I had imagined in my life kind of came crashing down. And I was like, okay, now my next step is family, focusing on my daughter that's coming, focusing on my marriage. What does that look like? Family dinners. Am I now the cook? Do I clean? So my whole reality had shifted. And when it shifted, the lie you've kind of told, everybody's been told, is after you have a child, you're weaker, your priorities change, you don't have time, you can't meal prep anymore. And so I kind of believed those lies and put my fitness, or competing at the games, I should say, on a back burner. And so after I had my daughter, Blakely, the priority was family. And it was, okay, I want family dinners. And in the evening, if I don't cook the family dinners, that's not going to happen. So I tried to have some fun recipes and make dinner for them and just tried to make health a priority, not competing. So for me, health looked like eating a green vegetable lunch and dinner every day, trying to go to the gym 3 to 5 times a week, and then consistently do that for a month. After a month, okay, let's try and do it for 2 months. And it was amazing how putting nutrition and health together mentally made me feel better, and physically I felt great. And then after Blakely was about a year and a half, the open rolled around and I was like, hey, I feel good. Let's try and just do the open. And then ended up qualifying for the games, and the rest is history.
And compared to the training volume you were doing before,
Yeah.
how did that compare? Because I think this kind of happened with Scott Panchik too. When we were talking to him, is like he kind of was like, I'll do like the workout of the day. It'll be fun. I'll kind of jump into the class, and then like the open rolled around, and he got like some outrageous placing, and he was like, wait a second, I maybe I still got it, which is interesting
Yeah.
because at the elite level, it seems like y'all train 3, 4, or 5 hours a day, multiple sessions, this and that, and it sounds like you kind of went back to just. Now, I probably wouldn't want to say everyday person working out. I'm sure yours was a bit more intense, but you were still able to maintain that fitness. Like, how do you explain that?
It's excuse me, the same as Scott Panchik. I went and joined the affiliate here in Midland and went to the noon class every day. That's all I was doing when I first qualified for the games and did well in the open, because for me, working out before was training for the games, intense, long sessions. After Blakely, it changed to prioritizing my mental health, like getting out of my house to the gym and mentally for an hour, just focusing on working out. Mentally, I felt better, and physically, I knew I only had an hour. So I was like, I'm going to make the most of it. During this 10-minute AMRAP today, I'm not going to get chalk. Okay, during this 15-minute AMRAP, I'm not going to bend over and breathe. So I was very intentional with my hour-long class and just tried to get better for myself because I knew I only had an hour. There was an hour childcare, and I just tried to really be intentional with my time and my efficiency and movements, and it paid out big time.
In which season was this?
This was 29. This would be 2021.
Okay. So
But
that's
really
when you end up
after
making it to the games the first year.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But really after I gave birth and went back to the gym, because it was only an hour, I tried to be super intentional with moving. I'm still a competitor at heart. So I was like, how can I be number one in a noon class today?
And did you realize, is that something you apply now, where like maybe before you were overtraining is kind of a weighted or a heavy, there's
Yeah.
different angles to come at from that. But is that something you apply now, where you realize like, wait a second, maybe before I was just doing way too much and my central nervous system was fried, or I wasn't resting the way my body needed? Is that something you kind of learned from all of a sudden going from this very routine, strict, probably way more than an hour, to then, like you said, just a very intentional hour?
Absolutely. And even now, if you were to survey all the games athletes, I probably train half of what they do because same thing, I prioritize family and fitness and health. And if I'm in the gym 8 hours a day, that's not healthy for my family or myself. So now in the gym, I'm only there from about 11 to 1:30, and then I mentally check out, and that's it for the day. As I get closer to the games, I might add an evening session. But that period of my life doing the classes, daily classes, showed me you don't need more volume. Sometimes you just need a little bit more intensity. And like, I'm okay with going a little bit harder if it means I have 4 hours in the afternoon to go to the park, go to the movies if she wants to, go to the library.
Yeah, and I think a more general theme there, not just applying to like super high performance for just the everyday person,
Right.
is like it doesn't take a ton. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people that make the excuse, I'm too busy, I can't work out. And it's a little disheartening because it helps your mental health so much and it doesn't take much. Go in there and hammer it for 20 minutes if that's all you have. You never regret going to the gym ever, ever.
Exactly.
So
And there were a lot of times, excuse me, when she was first born, I couldn't make it to the gym because she was napping, but I had a barbell at home and some dumbbells. So she would be in her crib and I would turn on a YouTube video and just while she's sleeping right next to her, do dumbbell cleans, whatever the YouTube video said. So for me, it looks different now, but it doesn't have to be complicated. You just move or get your body moving and sweating mentally. It makes such a huge difference.
yeah, that 90-minute nap time becomes pretty valuable time once you're in it, and do the dishes, work out, this laundry, this and that, and then you're on the clock. So it definitely motivates a sense of moving with a purpose. All right, so this is the first year. So you qualify in the Open. It was kind of a fluke. You just said, "Hey, what the hell? Let's do this." You made it to semifinals. How did you do at the semifinal?
I went into it maybe pretty far down. So I went into it probably in the last heats, close to last, and ended up winning the semifinal.
And that was the Granite Games.
This was the Granite Games.
So okay.
Same thing. Daily class with a sprinkle of extra training here and there. But my daily class was so intentional and high intensity that when it came time to compete, I was used to the high intensity. It was great.
Okay, so you win the Granite Games, and you're like, all right, I'm going to the CrossFit Games. Between Granite and CrossFit Games, did you still just say, hey, I'm doing the noon class? Or at that point where you're like, all right, I got to ramp it up just a little bit?
I had to ramp it up just a little bit. And that season of my life was probably the hardest because I had to realize I can't train 2 hours a day with a 2-year-old because she's not in daycare at the time. She doesn't go to daycare. And I was like, it's so selfish of me to say, hey, watch a movie for 2 hours while I'm in the gym. And so that's when I actually had to reach out for help from people and say, hey, can you watch my kid? Can you do this? And that's when I had a reality check of, if I want this to be my life, this is going to be really hard for my daughter, for my family. So I've since worked out from home and it's been a lot easier, a lot more peaceful. But that season was hard to adjust to more training with a kid.
And I think that's something, again, as parents, like we all kind of wrestle with, is almost you feel a bit selfish that, I don't want her to watch Cocomelon for the next hour so I can get this done. However,
Exactly.
The other side of the coin is, you can't pour from a glass that's half full. You have to fill your own cup too. And then you're going to be, better suited to be a good parent, that's patient and loving and all these things. So I think a lot of us need to show ourselves some grace a little bit, that's okay. Of course, within reason. You can't just be gone all the time, but to go hit a 2-hour workout is not the end of the world. But I absolutely can relate to that. I know Tony can, and it's something you have to adjust to, but realize that, it's, if you're present for 3 hours and it's good quality time, that will trump a 5-hour window where you're bitter and impatient because you had a bad day and you couldn't get a workout in, that sort of thing. So that's interesting that you had to go through that same kind of evolution of thought.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay, so you get out to the games. You got 14th that year, which is incredible considering you were doing the noon class up until a couple months before.
Thank you. Right.
When you went in there, like, what was your mindset? Were you just like, hey, I'm playing with house money at this point, let's just go have fun? Or were you like, no, it's game on, like I'm gonna try to get to that podium? What was your thought process going into the first year?
The first year I remember being very starstruck. No part of me was, I'm going there to get top 10, I'm going there to get this. At that point, I think 20th place and up actually got paid from the games. So my goal going in was, hey, let's go home and reimburse our travel. Let's go home and pay for our hotel room, stuff like that. So the goal was top 20 because it meant basically telling my husband, like, hey, I'm not in the hole from doing this crazy CrossFit competition. Like, I can help, buy the groceries the next couple months because of this. No part of me had any expectations. And even after the games, I was like, man, that was really hard on me, physically, mentally, on my family. Do I want to do this again? And then we reevaluated.